I think this is too long. So while we're in the chat room, let's go to chat. Bang. Ladies and gentlemen, tell me what you think if like a 5-minute warm up, 5:55 to 6 p.m. That's our time. Adjust for your own time zone. That's Pacific time. Hey, Richard. And then like right at 6, maybe like a 1-minute countdown real quick. And then they got into it. We get into it after that. Nope. Monitor off. Stephen doing all the checklist right now. Because I have a short attention span, and to me, 5 minutes feels like an extraordinarily long amount of time. It's incredibly long. It's the longest amount of time possibly ever. Like there was the Pleistocene era, and then there's all this. 2 minutes ago, we'll get started. Because sometimes people come in a little bit late. Jenna Leah, how dare you? How dare you? On my show, say go Pack go. I never want to talk to you ever again as long as I live. It's over. There's nope. There's no discussion. Hey, Danny Lundy, how you doing? Danny Lundy, I got to root for your team to lose this week, bro. I got to root for the Seahawks to lose. They got to go down. The Rams, Baker Mayfield has to surgically pick them apart like Jack the Ripper, except in an actual hospital and not riding around the back of a carriage. It's hard to make nice cuts when you're doing this all the time. It's very difficult. Not that I would know. Rhonda says her husband Frank is hugely funny. Wonderful. Danny Baker says hit it at 6. Woogie says need 5 minutes. People come in a little bit late. Maybe we'll compromise in the middle. All right. So we are now approaching D-Day. And I throw that shit to the ground. I've got 2 new things we're trying tonight. You original junkies, those who listen to the podcast from back in the day, know the Schwarmy sound. I figured out how to turn on the Schwarmy sound live while I read. That's a little love letter to all of you who've been around forever. Hello, Vaughn. Should be very fun. I see Danny Lundy needs the Lions to win. Very good. And then I have set up a device, I forget what it's called, teleprompter. So I'm not going to have to hold the iPad this time. I get to more read directly to you and gesticulate it with my hands there. Move around a little bit. We're going to get to do that. And 39 seconds to go. You know what, Christine? I also love that sound. That was a free Apple loop from friggin' 15 years ago with GarageBand. And it's like the sound is just part of the Sigler podcast. Hey, Robert, how are you? Robin Taylor in the house. What's going on, everybody? All right, ladies and gentlemen, 19 seconds. We're going to take off the headphones. Cover them up so they don't get into the way. Let's bring up, boom. How you like that? And then I'm going to be reading into the thing here. I'm reading into my thing. Pulsing Sweep is the official game. All right, here we go. Starting the recording. And Steve, you'll be happy to know I'm also recording in Logic. Recording. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Slay Part 4. I now give you the previously on Slay. Previously on Slay. Young Billy's childhood friend Joe enticed him into the criminal underworld for the first time as a local to set up a drug deal with Dante Oganov, a mobster from out of town. That deal went south in a big way when Oganov forced Billy to take a dab of Nurple, which made Billy hallucinate monsters. Dante as a goblin and Dante's bodyguard, LT, as a 7'6" ogre. Things went from bad to worse when a man in gray cloak methodically killed Oganov's men, including Joe, who was standing next to Billy when the man in gray blew a hole in Joe's head. The man in gray seemed to sniff Billy, then let him go with a warning to choose another career. Terrified beyond belief, Billy fled for his life. That man in gray is Lincoln Franks, son of Jacoby Franks, who some say was the greatest monster hunter of all time. Lincoln was ordered by Callista, an underworld boss, to stop Dante's drug deal and bring the proceeds to her. There, we learn that Callista keeps Lincoln's son, Samuel, in a place called the Shelf. To keep Sam alive and safe, Lincoln must do whatever Callista asks of him. That includes Lincoln's new mission to kill an as-yet unnamed lawyer that crossed Callista. Before embarking on that assassination, though, Lincoln visited his father in the Sunset House old folks' home. Jacoby did not hide his disappointment in his son and accused him of being the very thing the family's fought against for 8 generations. Lincoln tapped out. As he left his father's room, polishing off a flask of whiskey as he went, he ran into his older sister Sophia and his younger brother Lucas, who were also coming to see their father. Episode 4. It had already been a long day, but not long enough, apparently. Trials remained. And was there any trial greater than the trial of family? "Hey, sis," Lincoln said. "Good to see you." Truth be told, it was good to see her. The timing could have been better, though. Like maybe when Lincoln had just killed 8 men. Or hadn't been drunk. Or hadn't just had his sphincter reamed out by his booze-addled hero father. A booze-addled, senile hero father that always screamed about what a worthless excuse for a son Lincoln was. "Way to go," Lucas said. "Sounds like you got Dad all fired up. Again." Lucas and Sophia wore the standard poor me Bastion attire, both in white long-sleeve shirts with brown ties, Lincoln in brown slacks, Sophia in a brown skirt. She'd added brown leggings to help ward off the cold. She looked so much like their mother, even though she was a decade older than Mom had been when she had died. The resemblance was spooky. Sophia and Lincoln had both inherited Mom's lithe, athletic form and taut musculature. Well, Lincoln had once been Lincoln had once had taut muscles. All the drinking, all the drugs, and all the late nights with Magda had taken their toll. As for Lucas, pause real quick. Okay, sorry. As for Lucas, he had the same heavyweight contender look as his dad. At least, that dad possessed before the attack, before the wheelchair. Lucas outweighed his older brother by 20 pounds already, and the kid wasn't done growing. It wasn't fair, really. Little brothers were supposed to stay little. Left a window open. Hold on. This is how we make the sausage. Dun, 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 dun. This is how we sausage. To all my neighbors, you got much sausage flavor. This is how we sausage. Okay, back at it. We're going to get all of these wrinkles ironed out as we progress forward. Let's do that take again. Here we go. As for Lucas, he had the same heavyweight contender look as Dad. At least that Dad had possessed before the attack, before the wheelchair. Lucas outweighed his older brother by 20 pounds already, and the kid wasn't done growing. It wasn't fair, really. Little brothers were supposed to stay little. "Yeah, Lucas," Lincoln said. "That's why I came here, to fire Dad up. Like you don't try to do it." Lucas sneered with the air of a dismissive air of a 17-year-old who knows all there is to know. "Then why's he always pissed off when you leave? I bet you want him to get worse." Lincoln reached for his brother's throat, but Sophie slid between them. "Really, Lincoln?" She shook her head. "Here?" Lucas huffed. "She doesn't want you to get your ass kicked in public. Good thing you didn't touch me, because you'd be looking for your teeth right now." Sophie put a palm on Lincoln's chest, sending a clear message to stay where he was. She turned, eyed Lucas. "Baby brother, don't let your mouth write checks your body can't cash," she said. "You are not in Lincoln's league." Lincoln saw doubt flash in Lucas's eyes. Lucas knew he wasn't ready to challenge Lincoln one-on-one, and that knowledge burned. "Whatever," Lucas said. "You aren't as badass as you think you are, bro." Maybe not, Lincoln said. But I'm guessing you're still as broke-ass as I think you are. Or are you finally going to pitch in on Dad's care? Lucas's big hands clenched into big fists. You know we took vows of poverty, he said. Lincoln nodded. I know. I also know that you two are the only idiots in the Bastion that take that vow seriously. Sophie glared in a way only a big sister can, a way that cuts you to the core. Lucas, she said, why don't you take a walk? Me? Lucas shook his head. No way! Sophie turned on him, stepped close. Go now, Lincoln. Oops. Go now, or Lincoln won't get to kick your ass because I'll kick it first. Lucas flushed, his too white skin turning a rosy pink. He stormed down the hall. I see he can't whip you just yet, Lincoln said. Not yet, but he's close. The kid's got skills, and he trains hard. He's also got a mean streak. Reminds me of someone. I wonder who. He's an ungrateful little shit. Come on, Lincoln, Sophie said. Cut him some slack. So you're on his side? Sophie sighed. I am on the family's side. In an instant, Lincoln saw himself through her eyes. He saw his surly attitude, his petulance. She didn't deserve either. Yeah, he said. I suppose you are. Sophie took his hand. He started to yank away, but she held it tight. How's Dad? Lincoln gently held her wrist, pulled his hand free. Same, I guess, he said, always offering loving, fatherly advice. You're the black sheep of the family, little brother. The first Franks in 7 generations to walk away from the Bastion. You don't think that cuts Dad deep? The precious Bastion, Lincoln said. Look what the Bastion did for him. He got wrecked doing his job, and they abandoned him. I am not defending the Bastion, but everyone knows the deal going in. I know the deal. Dad knew the deal. You knew the deal, too. He wanted to yell at her, to tell her she didn't know a fucking thing about him, but the truth was, Sophie knew everything about him. She always had. I just wish his Alzheimer's would kick in once when I'm visiting him, Lincoln said. As fucked up as that sounds, it would be nice. Just for once, I'd like him to not crawl up my ass. She nodded with understanding. For a long time, Sophie had been the target of Jacoby Franks' tough love, which consisted of scorn, disdain, and constantly being told she wasn't good enough. She'd remained that target until it became clear that Lincoln was the superior fighter, the better hunter. After that, Jacoby gave Sophie all the love and support a child could ask for. The tough love switched to Lincoln, and there it had stayed. I understand, Sophie said. Any word on my nephew? When Jacoby asked about little Sam, it was an indictment. When Sophie asked, it was from a place of the deepest love. He's still there, Lincoln said. She again took his hand, and this time he didn't fight her. We will get him out, Sophie said. We just have to look for the right opportunity. We? I can only imagine what the monks will say about that. Their opinion doesn't matter, she said. He's my nephew. You are my brother. Family first, Lincoln. I doubt Lucas would feel the same way. Lucas is a teenager. I remember you at the same age. You were going to be the purest hero the Bastion had ever seen. You were going to master magic. You were going to be the chosen one. She scowled and bunched up her shoulders in a tough guy mockery, spoke in a gruff imitation of him. Oh, I will be incorruptible. I'll be even greater than father. In years past, that impression had made him laugh. These days, not so much. Yeah, Lincoln said. And look how I turned out. She patted his hand, then let it go. You look pretty toasted, she said. Are you staying off the gobbers? 100%. I don't touch his stuff. The slightest shake of her head told him she didn't believe a word of it. Are you sure Magda isn't steering you wrong? You know us former Rixators, Lincoln said. We perpetually walk the path of discipline and goodness. She didn't believe that either. "I'm going to go see Dad," she said. "Stay clean, Lincoln." She walked past him and into Jacoby's room. Lincoln heard the old man's voice blossom with delight at the sight of his daughter. "Sophia, light of my life!" Same man, completely different reaction. It wasn't fair. But such was life. Lincoln headed for the exit. Time to ride home and see just how much booze and drugs it took for... Time to ride home and see just how much booze and drugs it took to forget. Would Magda be down for a gobber or two? Well, Magda was always down for a gobber or two. Or 3. She was the only person in this world who wanted to forget more than he did. It was cold as hell, yet Billy Wainwright was sweating. Lungs burning, stomach heaving, he leaned against the closed security gate of a Boost Mobile store. He had run through the night, and run some more, away from the warehouse, out of the industrial area, his feet carrying him toward home. He had run until he'd seen something that made him stop running. The mailbox looked like any other. Blue, with a curved top, a battered USPS logo on the side. Normal, except for one small detail. The little pull-down drop slot thing wasn't a little pull-down drop slot thing. It was a mouth, all done up in heavy red lipstick, like that poster from that old musical movie, the Rocky Bullwinkle Horror Show. Something like that, anyway. "What's up, homie?" the mailbox said. "The fuck you staring at?" Billy closed his eyes, hoping the hallucination might pass. He opened them. It had not. "First trip, I'm guessing," the mailbox said. Billy nodded. "I figured." The mailbox smiled, showing white teeth. "The big reveal is a lot to handle." A talking mailbox. It was real, but it couldn't be real. It simply could not. The sirens had been real, though. Billy was pretty sure of that. The sirens and then the cop cars rushing toward the warehouse. Real, because that was where Billy had set up his first ever drug deal. Real, because people had been killed there. People like Joe. "You're still staring," the mailbox said. "Take a picture. It'll last longer." That was actually a good idea. When Billy came off this ridiculous Nurple high, he could look at the pic and know he had been tripping balls. Assuming this is what happened when one tripped balls, he had never tripped balls before. He pulled out his cell phone, raised it toward the mailbox. In the phone, there were no lips, just the regular... In the phone, there were no lips, just the regular old pull-down thing, scratched and dented blue metal, dimly lit by a nearby streetlight. "Ha ha," the mailbox said. "Dumbass. Noobs always fall for that." Billy put his phone back in his coat pocket. His sweat was cooling now, and he was feeling the night's chill. More sirens. How many dead bodies in that warehouse? He wasn't sure. Had the man in gray killed Dante and LT? Billy's breathing slowed. He was getting his wind back. Exactly how far had he run? Seemed like miles, but he had sprinted the whole way. "You've got some schmutz on your right shoulder there," the mailbox said. Billy reached up, felt something cold and wet. He looked at his fingertips. It was blood. Joe's blood. The man in gray had shoved a shotgun under the chin of Billy's friend, then pulled the trigger. Billy had been standing right next to Joe. "Oh, some in your hair, too," the mailbox said. Billy reached up, felt a wet chunk. He looked at it. Pinkish gray with a fleck of white in it. "Looks like brains," the mailbox said. "Man, your first derp must have been one hell of a banger." Brains. Joe's brains. "Derp," Billy said. What is that? The mailbox sighed. Your first hit of Nurple. Nerp derp. It's slang, kid. Take a look around, Aladdin. It's a whole new world. Billy did. He knew where he was. 2nd Street, near the on-ramp. One neighborhood from home. 5- and 6-story apartment buildings, cars parked along the curb, some with accumulated trash and blown leaves gathered under the wheels. A patrol car rolled past. Nice rides, driven by people coming to get drugs or hookers, beat-up cars, driven by tired people either coming home from the overnight shift or on their way to the early morning shift. The McDonald's, the Burger King, the still burned-out CVS on the corner, the parking lot where Lil Drano called the shots, Coletta's electronics repair, and Franco's bail bonds. Billy had spent countless hours in this area, but he'd never seen it like this. Someone had painted Ronald chokes on Hamburglar cock on the front of the McDonald's in some kind of weird green glowing paint. The front of Burger King had its own glowing graffiti, The King takes it raw in his flame broiler, and BK Fries suck several bags of dicks. Up and down the street, some of the battered store signs Billy had seen 1,000 times without thinking of them had changed. The original signs and bird shit spawned awnings were there, but so were glowing letters. Coletta's read, Coletta's curse removal and pawn. The donut shop that had been shuttered for a decade read, Soul Holes by the Baker's Dozen. Letters spray painted in glowing purple on an alley entrance read, The Perps Nerpaterium. Is that right? Sorry. Letters spray painted in glowing letters. Letters spray painted in glowing purple letters on an alley entrance read, The Perps Nerpaterium. It wasn't every building, not even close. Up and down the street, though, here and there, such signs glowed in the night. This is crazy, Billy said. Yeah, tell me about it, the mailbox said. Mickey D's and BK really hate each other. They got crazy beef, if you don't mind the pun. Billy shook his head. No, not that. I mean, all of this. I've never seen this stuff before, and I've lived around here all my life. Because you have been blinded, the mailbox said. Now you're seeing what really exists. A hallucination with self-justifying logic? It reminded Billy of the dreams he had where he argued intensely with someone. The partner in that argument was his subconscious mind, obviously, so he was arguing with himself, but even when he knew he was dreaming, the opposition stance often seemed compelling, spouting out lines that sounded like they came from a different person altogether. No, this doesn't exist, Billy said. It's my head, fucking with me. Bro, are you talking to that mailbox? A big man walking a chihuahua wearing a fluffy white sweater stood 10 feet away, staring at Billy. From the look on the man's face, it was clear he didn't see the Rocky Bullwinkle lipstick lips. Awkward, the mailbox said. The man looked like he could whoop someone's ass. Several someones. He had that, I walk a small dog in a fluffy white sweater at 4 a.m. in this neighborhood and I don't give two shits kind of badass energy. No, sir, Billy said. I was just talking to myself. The big man nodded. Uh-huh. Young buck, let me give you some advice. Whatever you are buying from Little Drano, stop taking that shit. Make something of your life. And get that blood cleaned off your jacket before the cops drive by again. The man gave the leash a little snap, and the chihuahua pranced down the sidewalk, pink leash bouncing in time. The mailbox was polite enough to wait for the man to turn the corner before speaking again. So, kid, do you live around here? Maybe you could mail some packages soon. A box of cookies, maybe? You wouldn't believe the things that some of these rejects put down my throat. It's gross. I am not a garbage can. Or a porta potty, if you know what I mean. Billy closed his eyes. He'd had enough. At this hour, he needed to swing over to 5th Street to avoid anyone in the Rollin' Outlaws gang who might be looking for easy pickings. Those assholes had been fucking with him for the past 2 years. He wanted to avoid everyone, talking mailboxes included, and get home to Grandma. I'm going now, he said, and started walking. Nice talking to you, the mailbox said. I'll catch you again when you come see the perp. Billy stopped and turned. The perp? Yes, across the street, the mailbox said. The nerp perp, when you come back for your next hit. Oh, Billy shook his head. Man, fuck that. I'm not doing this stuff ever again. The mailbox's red lips spread wide. Sure you're not, kid. Sure you're not. At that moment, Billy again realized he was talking to a mailbox and that the mailbox words were coming from somewhere in his own subconscious. He pulled his coat tighter against the cold and he headed for home. Boom, stop recording. Boom, stop recording, stop. What up, bitches? Love of my life, we're done. Hello, 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 hello. We talked about some kind of fancy way. Oh, God damn it. I left the word live up there the whole time. Hey, there's always something. Getting used to this shit. Got to add that to the steps. Maybe I can trim that out. You know what? That's 2 episodes now. I'm going to redo the whole fucking thing. It's crazy. Chihuahuas and sweaters. The best. All right, so let's get rid of the sleigh. This is really fun for me because obviously I'm screwing up a bunch of stuff. But this is very much like the old podcast, the early days of the podcast, where I literally had no idea what I was doing. I was just like, I believe there is something here that is unique and special, a special way to connect with readers and to connect with people. So just kept doing it despite all the screw ups. You guys seen screw ups live, but I'll get to re-record that. Get to re-record the end. Thanks, baby girl. Oh, I was good. You're like psychic. She's psychic. She always knows what's up. Always knows what's up. William, yes, you did miss the reading, but everybody who came in late or missed the reading, don't worry. The video is archived. So if you want to see me read to you, you can absolutely do that. It'll be, as soon as we finish this, it'll be the next post up on Facebook. You can go watch it and listen to it. No problem. Or on Twitch or on YouTube. They're all archived. If you don't want to watch that, or you were very busy or what have you, all you got to do is wait for the podcast feed. This episode, when I don't have to re-record the audio. This episode should be out in 3 weeks in the podcast feed. We're trying to make sure we get a little bit ahead on the episodes so that when A and I want to have a life and go somewhere and we can't do all the fancy reading from the road, we will not fall behind. I see some people. James Spencer, what's up? Yeah, it is. Thank you. It's great. James says it's great to see the process. The process is very fun. Like tonight, I have all this new stuff tricked out. I just forgot to turn off the clock. Turn off the clock. Let's get my better half up here. There we go. What's up, baby?
Guys. I'm good.
Oh, let me unmute your mic.
Please.
That was a lot better though. We still had I screwed up a bunch of shit, but still way better than it was before.
This is for you.
Oh, somebody got a cheesecake. What's up?
If you guys don't know,
Hold on, baby.
I don't think I
You need to bring a mic over, sweet pea.
Oh, yeah. It was covered. This is way better. It was literally covered in a whole thing, yet live.
Oh, you look fabulous, girl. What's up?
Yeah.
Girl, what's up? Girl, you come around this live stream often? What's up, girl?
Let me shut the sound off.
I fucked that up.
Yeah. Well,
Did you text me on it? Because I
No,
thought my
not
phone
that.
wasn't. Okay.
Yeah, that was something else.
But
we'll get it figured out. Yeah.
This is one of the best things about, and Dr. Danny Baker, PhD, can probably attest to this. Sometimes I can be a fairly intense, easily upsettable person and get a little fired up about things.
Hey, Jenna, nice to see you.
And my the love of my life over here is very, very, very good with simple things like, we'll get it next time. That's going to be fine. We'll schedule the re-record. It's no big deal. It's all good.
There's not a single one of us who is actually here right now that doesn't reiterate their life and try and do better every single day. We all do it. You've made the same
Gordy.
breakfast 67,000 times trying to get it just perfect, how you really like it. His is called the Stanley Cup. And when I don't make his breakfast, he makes his own breakfast. And it's called the Stanley Cup. And it's like an egg and some sort of protein.
Okay.
And whatever, and then we all do that. So we're reiterating. We're going to make it perfect. It's got to be lovely, or we're going to strive to do it.
Let's take a couple of minutes, 3-4 minutes. I'm now actively reading what you guys in the chat room. So we made a comment about the story earlier. I would not have seen it because I'm doing the reading. So put anything in there. Yeah, that was only 30 minutes, Jason. It's going to go by. I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit. I am finding the time goes by ridiculously fast now when I'm doing these live reads. And we're going to try and keep them to roughly 30 minutes. But you guys know I'm a long-winded bastard. It's possible they will be bigger than 30 minutes. But again, let's finish up. Yeah, comment on the story. And all of these episodes are going to be in the podcast feed. So if you missed anything, you can just listen to the podcast feed later. You can come back and rewatch them. And that's it. Here we go.
Yes, this is an orange Crown Royal bag. I think it was for peach. I don't think there's ever been an orange Crown Royal. But lots of podcasters, lots of musicians, lots of studios say, like, find a Crown Royal bag because they're really well designed. And because Crown Royal does the piping on the outside so that you physically see it, that's part of their branding. That means that it's smooth inside, and you can slip it over your microphone.
Everybody loves something smooth inside that slips over your microphone. There's no question about that.
Scott saw that little piece of information, like, oh, Crown Royal bags, they're smooth on the inside. And then I was like, cool, orange Crown Royal bags, and then I got these as I think it was probably a gift or something. But yeah,
you got that for me as a present. Very nice, very nice, very nice. Oh, oop, that did not work at all. Shit.
Oh, so we are now...
Go ahead, babe.
I think now that he's read, we are moving into the rest of the show. I know a lot of you guys have sent in celebrations since November. We're going to get to those next week. We had to do this Empty Set Year in Review, which we do every year. And now that we left the house in 2022, we had to tell you about it and sort of tell you what's coming.
It's going to be it's going to be not quite as dramatic of a year in review as some of our past years. So,
not so much.
All right, Pumpkin, let's get in because then, of course, we're going to talk about the injury to Damar Hamlin.
Yeah,
which I had a surprising number of people message me, tweet me saying, "Oh my God, it was such a GFL moment."
I love you too.
It feels like Mitchell the Machine Fayed moment. So we're going to talk about, life imitating art, which is already imitating life. And we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL's response and then a tiny bit about the reaction of some people, including people who've contacted me for the same reason. We're like, oh, everything's going to change. When are we going to stop playing this violent game, et cetera, et cetera. So I have some thoughts on all that. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, it's the year in review of 2022 for Empty Set Entertainment. Sit your ass down and enjoy.
And we're going to get into it in just a sec. But there are a couple of things that I can say. So, yeah, Jason, we, in the before times, when we went places, we did a whole podcast that was a year in review. How many miles Scott traveled, how many things he did, all that jazz. That's no longer applicable in the now times. But we are going to talk about what we did this year because it's the first time that we went back out into the world. Also, Christine McCullough, I don't know if he'll get back to the pup walks in the next few weeks. Right now, Southern California is super duper rainy, and we only get it kind of at this time. We get it sort of January and the first maybe week or two of February. And so it's a little bit hard to parse. And so our dogs, because they can never get used to the rain because it rains for 3 weeks a year, pretty much in Southern California, they're always, always, always not happy about the rain. So this morning, in fact, he was going to do a pup walk, a 2 pups, 1 cup walk this morning. But when he opened the door at 6:30 in the morning, it was pouring rain. So
dogs don't have very long fingers, but they did do this. They went, which I assume is both of them were like, yeah, I'm not going outside. Or as Reese would say, pups, I'm not. You guys, if it's raining outside or be inside, I would rather be inside. Both are good, but I'd rather be in here.
I will promise I'm not going to poop on anything. And they are good dogs. They're grown dogs. They didn't poop on anything. So those will probably come back in the spring or at least in March, because the weather in San Diego is unpredictably wet and our dogs will not get used to it. Like, full stop, will not get used to it. So,
last thing. Obviously, I'm not able to keep up with the chat room very well while we're doing this. So if you ask a thing and it didn't get answered, all you have to do is send that question to info@emptyset.com. Also, any comments on the story? Part of this experience is going to be as I read through the story, the stuff you guys really like, the stuff you really dig, I want to know about it. I want to hear about it because I can modify screen time for characters as we go. And the answer to the question was the inspiration for the mailbox. Remember, my inspiration is me doing an impression of someone else doing an impression of someone. So if there's like there's an actor and a comedian does an impression of the actor, I then do an impression of the comedian doing the actor. So the voices are meant to be the man with the dog is Morgan Freeman, and the mailbox of course is Frankenfurter.
Yeah,
which I'll work on that. I feel like I have to bring back the mailbox again. So here we go.
A couple of things before we get into it. We do have these two things to do.
Just this real quick.
But let me finish talking about this.
Okay. Oh yes, of
Akil,
course.
Listen. I hope in Sacramento. I know NorCal has another atmospheric river coming tomorrow. Obviously, you guys have a big week, and congratulations to you. If there's anything that we can do to support that, you let us know. But also, I'm sure you have that all under control because we're about to get a lot more rain tomorrow. And to you and your wife, or soon-to-be wife, and your daughter, and all that, I'm so excited for you.
Kills get married? Dope. Fabulous.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. So,
thank you,
we are if you are not in the United States is having a January winter. There was a big storm in the northern part, especially in the northeastern part of the United States. There's been quite a lot of rain in California, especially northern California. We have had an enormous amount of rain in Southern California, and it's going to be that way this weekend too. So we're going to all bear down and get through it, and it's going to be fine. Do you want to do the newsletter? Yeah, there you go.
Newsletter, we just we sent one out this week. So it's a great way for you to hear from us. We don't give that information away to anybody. ScottSigler.com/newsletter. And then, of course, we're getting ready to roll in this. The numbers are adding up. It's really fun. Text SIGTEXT to 855-955-5095. And that will send you text when we're about to go live, to give you a 2-hour heads up for Sigler in Place for the live read. Soon we're going to have a bunch of new products available. When we have new books, we have new interviews, all that stuff. This is the fastest way to talk to you guys. I'll tell you a little story real quick. We use a service called Postscript, and I bitched on Twitter about Postscript because Postscript has this process. Hey, give us $100 a month. You get 100 credits. I won't get into it. And then that's in November. Then December, any unused credits roll to December. And then the unused credits from November that roll to January, they just keep that money. They just keep that money. And I got super pissy, and I've been trying to not be a Karen, but communicate with their support department. Be like, this is ludicrous. You don't get to keep my money if I don't use it. So I bitched on Twitter, and the guy who founded Postscript responded. And I don't think it was incredibly happy.
But
he was very polite, responded, said, we're in the process of fixing this. You're not the only one complaining. So that's all a little side note on the text right there. And let's turn that off. And text, boom, bam. Okay. Boom, boom, bing, boom, bam.
So
boom, bam, bam, bam.
we have that. We also have, you heard about the text. Can you put up the text number there?
Yes, ma'am.
Put up the other one. This is the SIG text. Somebody in the chat asked for it. If you want to subscribe to this, you just text that number. SIG text, and you'll get the notifications. We have obviously made a promise to you the entire time we've been Dark Overlord and Empty Set. We'll never sell. We're not into that. We're not going to do that. We may spam you with our own bullshit, but we're not gonna sell your shit for anybody, for anything ever.
And if you haven't signed up for this yet, we're getting precariously close to launching the new site. The new site is a Shopify site. Lots of fun stuff. If you are signed up at the time of the launch, at the time of the website launch, you get 10% off anything you fucking want in the store, everything all together.
It's worth it. It's soon. It's sometime in the next maybe.
It's worth it. All right. Slay girl. Okay, let's go. Time for your interview.
So one more thing.
Oh, yes.
Christine McCullough, we did not film the advent calendar. And listen, not going to lie to you. The pup advent calendar was a tragedy in our house. Oh, my goodness. Now, every time any plastic crinkles, they're like, oh, a treat for me. So I'm not sure. But we didn't video it, so I can't show it to you. Okay.
Real quick, still learning to make the sausage. I recorded all the stuff with A coming up by accident for the video because I hit the pause button, not the stop record button.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay. It's not re-record anyways. Let's go.
Do it in post. Okay. So we have the Junkie Meetup in January is this coming Saturday. If you guys don't know about this, our good friend Steve Rickyberg, he hosts a 7-hour, I think,
in a small fact, he does not pee for the entire 7 hours. He just sits there and just mentally prepares himself.
So many dark and stormies.
He mentally prepares himself, drinks dark and stormies, and says, I am the master of my own bladder. And then as soon as it's done, he's off to the bathroom. I got it.
It's a really fun time. You don't have to stay the whole time. You can come in and come out, do whatever you want. But if you want to join this Saturday, I think I'm going to join for a little bit. I have to take down all my Christmas stuff, so I don't know how that will work. Oh no, we are going to see a show.
Yeah, we're going to see the San Diego Seals, little indoor lacrosse.
I might only be on in the beginning for a little bit.
I'm a manly man, and I know all there is to know about every sport in the world. So I'm going to go ahead and going to sit there and I'm going to do a lot of critique on the lacrosse.
We're going to learn about sports on Saturday.
We'll tell them how to throw the lacrosse ball with the lacrosse hatchets. All right.
Lacrosse hatchets?
Yeah, I think that's what they are. Let's go.
Okay, so now we're moving into our year in review. We have had, this was a weird year, of course. You guys probably are the same way. You thought you had a ton of plans in 2020. There turns out to be not so many plans in 2020. And then 2021, and here we are in 2022. So in 2022, we went back into the great big world. We used to do a how many miles did Scott travel to see his fans? But now we're just going to talk about us going back out into the great wide world. We went in 2022. We went to in February. We went to Florida to visit Coach and Carol, which is always a private trip. I know a lot of people in Florida are like, "Where are you? Can we get together for a junkie thing?" But they're in the Panhandle, and that's just a family trip. So we did that, and it was lovely. It was safe. It was easy. And then we went to visit our good friends Marie and Stephen and Rebecca and Chris in the Bay Area.
Stephen King, the voice of Brian Clouser in Blue Balls.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's Brian. I forgot. Yeah. In Blue Balls, Pookie Chang is the hero of the story, and Brian Clouser is the nebbishy guy in the sideline trying to follow along with his hero. And Stephen King does a very good job at that.
He does a great job.
Maria, who's not here tonight, but often is here, is literally one of the funniest human beings I know in my entire life.
So we saw them for St. Patrick's Day in March of this year, and then we didn't leave the house again until sort of July. I mean, in July, we had so many family things going on. So I used to be the newest Sigler, the newest minted Sigler. I got married to Scott on June 28th of 2020, and I spent 2 years being the newest Sigler. And in 2022, things changed because in July, we went to Pennsylvania. We went for a wedding, and Scott's second youngest nephew got married to a gorgeous, lovely, lovely East Coaster named Maddie. And that was
Maddie's
one of the things she said to me. She's like, "I'm so glad I'm joining the family after another East Coaster has joined the family." And I'm glad she's here too. But also, as you guys probably know, if you follow Scott on social media, we welcomed on New Year's Eve the newest Sigler, who is a grand nephew.
I'm a grunkle. What's up?
And I'm a granty, I guess.
Grunkle and Granty hanging out with y'all.
He's beautiful. He's healthy. He's home. He's safe. Whole family is home. All of that is lovely. Caden and Maddie are loving their new life together. All of that is lovely. Their honeymoon, they went on a magical mystery van camping thing, and we might do that in 2020.
Yeah, we might.
So that was lovely. And then we did this thing. You guys have heard this already, but since it's the year in review, I'll tell you. We went back to Michigan in August. We spent a week visiting family, visiting friends and family in Michigan, and then I got to go to Scott's hometown. He and his best friend Rob, who is also his screenwriting partner, Rob, they write a screenplay every year. They spend a week together kind of mapping it all out, and then they spend like 6 months doing it after the fact, right? And they finish the whole screenplay. They did one in 2021.
Yeah, 2022 is the first one.
No.
Well, we did one in 2020. Correct, you are right.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
Sorry,
two.
baby.
We didn't do one in 2020.
We did Mall Pigs in 2019. 2021. We're literally not allowed to tell you the screenplay that we wrote in 2022.
Yeah.
Someday I'll be able to spill the beans on all this for you guys. And it's
but the fact that we can't talk about that is
very
fine.
Funny. But this year in 2023 coming up, the last two have been my stuff I've been working on. So this year in 2023 coming up, Rob Otto gets to decide which screenplay we're writing. Now, trust me, I'm going to be campaigning because I got some fucking tasty shit in the back burner. You know that warming burner you got in the back of your stove in the middle?
Yeah.
I got some tasty shit, and I want to work on it. But this is Rob's choice, so we'll go from there.
Love you, Sherry. Have a good night. I think
good night, Sherry.
Might be going to either put the pups to bed or the sons to bed, or you might be going to
Michael Gray says they get spicy jalapeno spam. Let's get some of that shit. All right, let's go. Back to the thing.
Yeah, I'll make masubi.
Let's should
do that.
Let's do it.
So we're going to, we went in August of 2022 for 2 weeks to Michigan. It was great. We got to see lots of family. I got to visit the hometown. And what's so fun about the hometown is you guys. I can't even tell you how much of Scott's writing is sort of skinned on his experiences in his hometown. Mm-hmm. And it's wonderful. It's beautiful. Dr. Daniel Baker, PhD, is in the chat room right now.
Yep.
I got to
Still wanted for murder in Sheboygan, as a matter of fact.
I got to meet his mom, who does not feel like he's wanted for murder in Sheboygan.
No, Dr. Daniel Baker, PhD's mom, she'd bury that body. She don't get two shits.
Okay, but also...
Mom, I'm in trouble. Like, I'll be right there. I'll bring the wagon.
Listen,
it's fine.
When we showed up at her house, she was like, hey, I have made these baked treats. I have made these baked treats. And I was like, why do you make so much? What are you cooking for? And she's like, no, I just like to bake. I leave them on my neighbor's lawn, like porches and stuff. We had the best brownie I have ever had in my entire life. Because she makes these little tiny brownies, and then when they come out of the oven, she pokes a hole in it, and then she puts either a caramel or a peanut butter cup in it. It's insane, guys. It's insane. It was so fun. These guys stayed at the kitchen table for a week. I got to see so many things. And listen, you guys, Mr. Scott Sigler with this crazy noggin grew up in the tiniest town, you guys.
Small town.
Tiniest
Very
town.
small town. Yeah.
So all of this is just his imagination.
Well, the imagination was extremely active when I grew up in that tiny town. And there's I'd say 3 factors fueling the imagination. Number 1, tiny town, you are not infused with sensory input, for example. So a little hyperactive ADHD brain is like looking for stuff. Number 2, Mom, being a grade school teacher, was like, she would take me, I would get 5 library books a week and then get to go to the bookstore and buy 2 more books. And I just read nonstop throughout all of grade school, junior high. And then my dad lied to me constantly 24/7. As a kid, we'd be on these road trips and we're driving. And of course, I had the attention span of a gnat. Like, I'm just like all over the place. And I'd start screaming, like, read this book, look at this. Like, what's this dial on the car? I was like, oh, all this shit's driving people crazy. My dad would go, that's UFO, did you see it? And I'd look in the window, I'm like, no, I don't see it. He's like, it's right over. Oh, it's gone. You just missed it. He would do this to me over and over again. And then when I got older, my brother, who's 2 years older than me, my brother figured out what was going on because he wasn't interested in UFOs. My dad would be like, there's a UFO. My brother would be like, whatever, bro. And then my brother would be like, I saw it, Dad. Did you see it, Scott? And I was so tiny and angry all the time. Like, I didn't get to see the Bigfoot. I didn't see the lion. I didn't see the UFO. What? I was constantly searching for this shit that my lying father and my asshole brother were telling me was there, and it kind of made my gears turn, come up with shit.
Vaughn, you're
hate them.
The banjo music Peterman tour I'm in for. Yes, exactly. Listen, then we come back. We start to realize winter is coming to the Northern Hemisphere and cooties abound. So we make a couple of business trips to LA, which were very productive. But before, I want to say, like, we got to visit, Scott's brother has a new home we got to visit. That was lovely. Have a fire pit moment and everything. Scott's folks have a new home, which is, oh my God, gorgeous. We got to visit all the no, they're just your nephews and nieces.
I'm lost in the
Sydney,
context.
we got to visit all the family.
My nephews and my incredible, brilliant nieces, Riley and Sydney. My brilliant, fantastic nephews, Tyler and Caden. Mm-hmm. As you guys can see, we don't have our own children, so my nephews and nieces are extremely important to me. Very, very important. Very important.
The new baby. Oh my goodness.
The new baby was 9 pounds, 8 ounces.
9 pounds, 8 ounces. I have never had a child, but I feel like that's about this much bigger than my head.
Yeah, it's almost as big, literally, as our dog. It's huge. All right, let's go. We got to get to the next bit.
So in September, we had a few things happen that were wonderful for us. A tactical secret agent consultant, Chris Grawl, came out to California, taught me how to make his special secret chili recipe, which I cannot share with you, but it is very good.
It's real good.
And that crazy weekend, his Jags, Scott's Lions, and my Jets all won. Oh, my God. And we're going to talk a little bit in a minute.
All three, well, no, the Jets are out. Sorry. The Jets are out. The Jags and Lions have a chance to make the playoffs. Winning in. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And then we got to go actually to SoFi Stadium and watch the Rams play. And it was literally from the 50-yard line. Yeah. It was amazing.
That was the people from Cast Dot.
Yeah, they're lovely. Cast.org.
Oh, I think I have that shit right here. I had it. Anyways, they're people we're going to be working with them this year. We're going to try and get on board with them in live streams and do some cool stuff.
Cast is with a K.
Cast with a K. But we're not going to talk about that right now.
And then we had I actually had a weekend like my first weekend away from the house since the pandemic started. That wasn't a trip with Scott. I got to hang out with Steve and my friend Maria and a couple other people. It was super fun in LA for a couple days. And then we went, as you guys know, to Las Vegas at the end of October. Our friends Marie and Steven they got married in the pandemic. Scott was the best man and I was the officiant, but that was in 2021. And in 2022 in October, we got to go celebrate their wedding in Las Vegas. It was crazy. It was fun. We dressed up. You can look at that Sigler and Place and see all the pictures.
We were worried we'd get COVID every step of the way. Well, we did not.
And then we went back to LA in November for a couple of meetings, and we stayed in Pasadena and went to a 100-year-old restaurant, which is like a horse racing restaurant. It was very fun.
We did not take enough pictures of that joint.
We did. I have a few pictures. I can show them to you, but it was crazy.
It was the sickest old Sinatra crap I've ever seen outside of actual New York, where you get to go to the place where Sinatra used to chill. It was like if Sinatra and Sammy and Dean had blown on into L.A., they'd been like, you know what? We're going to this restaurant right here. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to buy out the whole side.
It was so fun, yeah.
It was great. And what was the name of that place? The Derby?
The Derby.
The Derby in L.A.
In Pasadena. The Derby in Pasadena.
First of all, if you like horses, go. And if you don't like horses, just go. It's fabulous. All right, next.
So then we were here after that. We had Thanksgiving and Christmas with my folks and our friends. We spent New Year's Eve with a handful of friends of ours in a private home having a safe celebration, which was super fun. And now we're locked down, I think, until the Northern Hemisphere warms up a little bit. However, I want to tell you what we'll be doing. Scott has in 2023 a few short stories, which I can't tell you which ones they are, but as they unfold into the universe, you'll learn them. There's 3. He's also going to start work on Crypt Book 2. I can't name. Hang on. Can I name this?
No.
Okay.
Can't
so, as you know, he's writing Slay.
We will call it we'll call it the Tup.
The Tup?
The Tup. The unnamed project.
The unnamed project.
The Rob Otto Tup.
So he's writing Slay, as you know. He does that one whole day a week, which is what you're hearing now and that you'll see in the feed in 2023. He's got the Tup, which eventually we'll be able to talk about, I hope. And then, let's see. For me... Oh, there's also, if he finishes the Tup in a reasonable amount of time, and creativity is hard, so we're hoping that he does that. But if not, creativity is hard. We're going to execute the last draft of GFL Book 7 in this year, 5, 6, 7. 2023.
Yeah, we're looking to finish that up 2023.
And then for me, we've mentioned this on the cast before, I think. I'm not sure if it's been cohesively talked about, but I am in the process of starting to prep for a re-record of books 1 and 2 of the Generations trilogy.
Yes.
Steve Rickyberg, the Iceberg, and I are working together with Scott. We're kind of working together. I'm right now prepping for that, but I'm going to re-record those because... you guys already know this. There has been lots of... It's hard to hear a different narrator.
Yeah.
2/3 through your series, and so we're gonna fix that. And
I'll be blunt. I was not happy with the narration in book 1 or 2. I thought she was a very talented voice actor,
of course,
but the amount of prep work that was put in was not great, and the completely ignoring the pronunciation guides that I sent was also not great. Also being told, like, no one's ever given me a pronunciation guide before. I'm like, excuse me?
No, and then we have literal, like, audible.com audiobook narrators of the year saying, please give me pronunciation guides.
That's like, people like beg, like, can you, and like, usually people are happy. I'm like, give me a pronunciation guide. Shit, I'll record one for you. How would that be? And they're like, boom. And you give it to them. Like, then they listen to it. They know it. This was not that particular voice actor's decision to listen to that work. So it's been a burr inside my sternum. So now, this fine, talented is going to redo them all. We're going to put them out. And then that is going to be a launching point for A's audiobook recording career. She'll have five in the hopper. Is that right? Or 4 when this is done? 4 in the hopper?
It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the hopper.
5 in the hopper when this is done.
But Jason Brown, you asked an interesting question. If you already own a Live or a Light on Audible, this will be a replacement download. You're still going to have to choose to download it, but you won't have to rebuy it. It's not a rebuy at all. We wouldn't do that to you guys. You know we're in it to win it with you guys, and it's making right what people complain about. And I know there are a lot of people who would rather Emma record the 3rd book instead of me record the first 2, but that's not an option for us, so we're going to do this.
All right.
Well, let's see. And then I am also in the process this year of updating a handful of ebooks. We're making a little bit of a shift in our short story collections and such. So you'll see that come out. Same thing is true. If you already own it on audio, you'll just re-download it into the new format in audio. You don't have to buy it again. But we're trying to branch out and make... Scott is, I mentioned, in 2023, writing a handful, I think it's 3 short stories right now. And I think it might stay 3 short stories because he's got so much work to do. We're going to go a little bit long here, so I'm just going to wrap this up. Then we're going to talk about Damar Hamlin a little bit, and then we're going to leave for the night. But we're rejigging some of that so that the short story collections are a little bit different. You can just re-download those. You don't have to rebuy those. And then we're probably going to put out a little bit of isolated, like, omnibus editions of his novellas.
In that paper. We're going to give you that paper, son.
Yeah. It's not completely fleshed out yet because supply chain issues are a big thing, but we're going to work on it. That said, those are the Empty Set updates for 2023. At this moment in 2023, we don't have any plans. It may change, but we don't have any plans to go to any conventions. Siglerfest is over, all that stuff. I just want you guys to know going into 2023, you don't have to save vacation days or money for any of that. If that changes...
that's so nice. You're so nice. You're so nice to tell people that.
We've got a handful of questions.
Fuck them. Let them. What's the worst that could happen? They go to Vegas?
Yeah, well, but we've had a handful of questions. Do I need to request vacation time?
I'm just saying.
Not
nice
right
person.
now.
You're a nice person.
It's not quite time for that yet. We're still pretty pandemic, not endemic yet. So we're going to work on that. But right now, you don't need to save any time or money. Siglerfest is over. We will someday go back to conventions, but we don't have any plans yet.
Dude, that cheesecake is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so fucking good.
In college, I worked at a cheesecake bakery. I make pretty cheesecakes. Okay, so the last thing
Gordy Keefe, didn't record a book. No, book 1 and 2 of the Generations trilogy was by a different narrator than book 3, which A did. And A came in for book 3 because I was unhappy with book 1 and book 2's pronunciations. So now that we record audiobooks literally for a living, and A is a audiobook narrator pro, she's going to go back down in the garage and re-record 1 and 2, and then the whole thing will have the same voices. And, frankly, I'm not going to lie. We're going to lose money on this. There's a lot of time A spending on this. She's not getting paid for her talent, but we're going to do it anyways. But at this point,
the right thing to do.
We'll then have the people who then discover the series down the road will get a consistent presentation of the work
right thing to do.
with the correct pronunciations. So yes, we're going to lose money on this deal, but it's still the right thing to do. So we are going to do that. That is what's going on. All right.
And Akil, you brought up a good question. We are working on print on demand for paperbacks outside the U.S., novellas, short story collections, all that stuff. We're getting into it. We have to get our new website launched. Tori. And then we'll do that, I think.
You ready to move on?
I mean, not yet. I have to just say I'm pretty glad, Sean, you have other plans for your vacation time. Now I'm ready.
I'm not. Fuck that shit. Everybody's vacation time should be Siglerfest nonstop. Woman, we need to introduce you to a little thing called the dark side. You need to understand. It's about us. It's not about them. It's about us.
I have no mean side to myself.
Some people are too goddamn nice. You guys are lucky she's involved in this shit. You ready to move on?
I am.
All right, so here we go. Now, several people were on various social medias, emails, texts, were asking me about Damar Hamlin's injury because it so closely resembled what people had read when Mitchell the Machine Fayed, spoiler alert, passed on.
Even I came up and interrupted you.
Yes, A came up and interrupted me. So, of course, Mitchell the Machine Fayed, R.I.P., passes on in The Rookie. And is it The Rookie or The Starter? I forgot already. Too bad John's not in the house. And the character in the GFL dies on the field, takes a very severe hit. And the GFL, one of the things about the GFL is listing not only the score and the stats, but injured and killed on the field. The reason I did this is because when I started writing this series 20 years ago, and I had a conversation with my father, at the time I wrote this, the average weight of an offensive lineman was about 290 pounds, okay? So I go to Dad, I'm like, Dad, I'm thinking about, I want to bump this up. I want to make it because of the force times velocity. Force times, what's that? Force? Mass times velocity?
Energy equals?
I'm bad at my physics. So mass plus velocity equals force, right? So I'm looking at this, and having played football as a tiny human, I know what it's like to get absolutely demolished by a guy who weighs 230 pounds and can run real fast and bench a whole lot of weight. So when I'm writing the GFL, I'm trying to extrapolate how big people might be 600 years in the future. And knowing what I know about football and physics and injuries, I'm like, there is no question this far in the future when you extrapolate the algorithmic growth of player size and speed and strength and ferocity, people are going to die on the field. So I wrote that into the book as a regular thing for the GFL. When Mitchell passed on, he gets spun around and hit, and he breaks his neck, and a cart comes out on the field, lifts him up, takes him off, and part of the cart is there's a little light showing his heartbeat. And as Quentin is watching, he sees the heartbeat slowing, and before Mitchell is taken out of the end zone in the tunnel, he sees the light go dark and stop. And even though he finishes the game, and everybody finishes the game, he knows that Mitchell is probably dead, but they finish the game anyways. So those of you who are not familiar or follow football like I do, like a freak, where's my books page? Boom. This young man, 25, I think? 24, played for the University of Pittsburgh, Pitt University. Mm-hmm. Damar Hamlin was playing for the Buffalo Bills, and on a Monday night game, absolute prime time, in an absolute critical game for the playoffs, because the winner of this game, if I remember correctly, the winner of this game gets home field advantage throughout the playoffs as long as they win.
That's correct.
As long as they win the next week. It's the Bills versus the Bengals. There is no possible bigger game during the season than the two dominant teams in the AFC fighting for home field advantage throughout the playoffs until they get to the Super Bowl.
But you're not.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're not playing that moment.
No, I will not. I will not play that.
Thank you.
So Damar Hamlin, who is a defensive player for the Buffalo Bills, makes what looks like a routine tackle, goes down with the guy he tackles, gets up, stumbles a bit, drops down. And then, as you can see here, here's a scene from the game. These are a bunch of Bills players and some Bengals players probably too, and coaches, all kind of gathered in the area of the gentleman who is injured. And at the time, A came up and interrupted me because, of course, I'm working on fiction for you guys. He comes up and said, I think you need to come down and watch this. So I go down and watch this.
And I will say, I literally said, this is life imitating art, I think. I have waited 20 minutes, but I think you have to watch this happen. Because it was so heartbreaking. Because he stood up and was fine. You guys watched it. Some of you guys watched it. If you, please don't watch it. Just watch other moments of Damar's stellar career so far in his 1.5 seasons. Don't watch that moment. It's
yeah.
But
so we are. A brings me down. I'm watching the game, and I might be a little cold-hearted, but I'm looking at this from a very analytical perspective. First, she explains to me what happens. I see all the people around, and I'm a Lions fan. So there's a gentleman named Mike Utley, who broke his neck when way back when. You can look up UTLE. I think. And he broke his neck on the field, and they brought it to the backboard, and they take him off, and he's still, I believe, a paraplegic to this day. So football is a violent sport. Football is a sport of strategy and accuracy and intentionality, but at the core bedrock of football, if you can beat the living hell out of another human being in a one-on-one situation, you have a higher chance of winning that game. It is a Festivus feat of strength, and it is in some ways, it is incredibly intellectual in the strategy. It is also absolutely a sport of primitive brawling. So I see this guy down the field, and I'm like, okay, I'm gathering it, and I'm talking to A, and A says, well, he had a tackle and he went down. I'm looking at him like, well, probably broke his neck like Utley. Then A says, well, he got up, and then he fell down. And my first reaction was like, oh, he had a heart attack. He's gosh, who was the Celtics player? I told you this when we played. There was a young man who was a first-round draft pick by the Celtics who had a heart attack in the preseason of the NBA after being drafted. And he died because he's a giant man with a heart defect. And if you have a heart defect as a giant man, when your ticker's not working, it's hard to pump blood all the way through. So I assumed he was already gone. And then A found out after in reporting his heart stopped on the field.
Yeah. So right now we don't.
Len Bias. Thank you, Daniel. Len Bias.
Len Bias, yes. So we don't have word from anybody who's taking care of him or the Bills organization. We don't have any of that. But quite a goodly number of cardiac care physicians and ER physicians and trauma physicians, trauma unit number 1, which is a high level of trauma in the United States, those centers, they're saying that he might have had something called commotio cordis, which is, you know your heart beats like this, right? Like we all know that. It beats like this, right? And if it is in a low blood moment, like if it's right here and something pounds your heart, commotio cordis might happen. And it's not about the health of the heart. Damar's heart is completely healthy, actually, right even at this minute. They have confirmed that his heart is quite healthy. It was just the one moment that helmet hit his sternum was the moment to disrupt his electric vibe and his arrhythmia, and it got things out of whack. And he fell into cardiac arrest. And a lot of people don't understand that a cardiac arrest is a different diagnosis than a heart failure or a heart attack. They're similar, but different. So his heart was completely healthy. A heart attack is you have pathways to your heart that don't have enough oxygenated blood, right? He didn't have that. He didn't have heart failure, which is that his heart can't pump out enough blood, right? Mm-hmm. He just had this one freak moment where an impact hit his heart between cardiac rhythms, electric rhythms, that upset his cardiac rhythms. And they're trying to get him back into normal cardiac rhythms. And that's great for him. That's great for him. They say his cardiac health is 100%. They say his lungs have had some damage because, of course, when your heart stops pumping blood, part of the thing your heart does is pull fluid out of your lungs. So there was some fluid in his lungs, and there might be some damage there. They can't tell. But he has a good chance of recovery. We also know in soccer a couple of years ago we had Christian. What is his name? There was a player who had an undiagnosed heart trauma, which so far we don't know about Damar, right?
Damar seems to be very
totally healthy heart.
Yeah.
But who also had a crash on the field and had a cardiac
Chris
event.
Grell points out, I don't know this, but commotio cordis happens at times in baseball and in hockey.
Yes.
And Dr. Daniel Baker, PhD,
and
pointed out there's one person in the NFL who has died on the field, and that was Chuck Hughes in 1971 against the Bears, and that was a heart attack. So let me go through my general points here. Here's my hot take. This will get me on ESPN with Stephen A. Smith. Number one, it's going to happen again. This is absolutely going to happen again. As people aren't just getting bigger, they are getting stronger and they are getting faster. And there's a massive amount of force in the exponential amount of force being delivered to players. The NFL has tried to do something about this. The defenseless receiver, various rules, trying to protect the quarterback, but and they're doing an okay job of reacting to the injuries that have been on the field. But as people get bigger, faster, and stronger, you're going to see more of this. What I was saying about the offensive line was, it was about 293 was the average weight of an offensive lineman when I wrote the book. Now it's 324. I talked to my dad. When my dad played college football and got invited to try out for the pros, it was 261. So in the time it took in one generation from my dad to me, the average weight of a player, offensive lineman on the field went up 29 pounds. And since then, the next generation has gone up, I believe that's 25 pounds again. People are just going to keep getting bigger and stronger. So we're going to see more of this. But that being said, this is very rare. So I had some people saying, like, when are they going to do something about this violent game? When are they going to put a stop to this? What are they going to do about this?
It's such a rarity.
It's such as dramatic as the injury is, and as dangerous as it is to this young man's life and other young men who play the game, these kind of catastrophic, life-threatening injuries are these in-the-moment injuries are preposterously rare. You have to factor 100 years of the NFL across and see how many people have died in the field. So far, one. Could be two. We got to see what happens to this young man. But statistically speaking, this is an incredibly rare thing because people are getting bigger. The protection technology is also getting better. But like I go through in the GFL, eventually we're going to start seeing traumatic brain injuries because you can't get inside the brain and stop the brain from rattling around inside the skull.
And I'm going to talk so that you can see my chest because commotio cordis happens when the perfect physical hit at the perfect time. It's not how strong the hit is, it's about when it happens. So if that's what happened to him, it hit his sternum, and you guys all have a sternum, pound on that. Do that. Do this. Do what I'm doing right now to your own chest. And tell me how, well, you can't tell me, but imagine how thick you think your sternum is. You think it's like a couple inches deep or at least an inch deep, and it is not. Your entire system is flexible, right? Like you have in your ribs, you have, what is it? Chitinous? No, what is it called
Cartilage?
For us? Cartilage, not chitinous. You have cartilage that lets your ribs expand and contract. So, and that they also exist right around your sternum. So your sternum and your rib cage is not it's not a jail. It's a flexible thing. And what happened is that if cardiocarditis is the thing that happened to him, it's not a prevention thing. But here's the thing. I think they're doing everything that they can do for him, and they're keeping him on his belly, which gives the lungs all the room they need to expand, which is good, right? But here's the thing, like, humans are fragile, and this was a freak accident, and could it happen again? Yes. Will it happen again? Of course.
Eventually, yeah. I believe Tori pointed out, and I'm not going to back her statistical analysis on this, but playing football is way safer than driving a car.
100%.
From a lethality factor, that's probably
taking a plane
probably
flight.
True. Taking a plane flight. So when you look at the broader picture of the dangers of playing in the NFL, not counting CTE, I'm saying that right now, I am not counting CTE in the factor. CTE, of course, is another big factor in the GFL. Because as people get bigger and faster and stronger, that little brain rattling around inside your skull where nobody can get in and fix anything is going to become more of a dramatic problem. Michael Grace pointed out that it feels like the game is getting safer because they're finally addressing the rules for player safety. So like any other young man who played the sport, I used to cheer for all the big hits. Oh, he got jacked up, like all that stuff. I cheered for that. And then as I got older, I'm like, and my nephew started to play. I'm like, I watched my nephew Tyler take some hits that no young man should ever get hit. I'm like, there's no need for this level of hits. There's no need to just destroy a guy. You just tackle the guy, and then you keep the highly paid, highly talented young men playing the game that we all want to watch them play. This was not that. This was not a cheap shot. This was not perfect. This was not anything like it. It was just a random hit.
It was a freak accident.
A freak accident.
Sure, right? So, because Jason Brown pointed this out. Oh, sorry. Jesus. Siri. This, I told you all to tap on your sternum. Tell me how deep that was.
Mine's like 2 feet thick, dog.
I know, right? You think it's the whole length of it. You think it's at least two inches thick, maybe 3. It's probably a third of an inch thick.
Jesus. That's very tiny.
And not only that, if this is my sternum right here around it are several cartilaginous moments that give me the ability to stretch if I need it, right? It's very flexible from a protecting my heart moment. And it did the right job. This was such a freak accident. And I'm glad. Oh, sorry. I'm super glad that they're doing what they should do.
You keep talking. I'll fix that.
It seems
I got it.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
I was going to try and... Okay, thanks. I'm super glad they're doing what they're doing. My understanding right now is he was resuscitated on the field, which is amazing. The ability to get to somebody who is having a cardiac event in less than 10 seconds it doesn't exist in American healthcare.
Yeah, which
exists in the NFL.
There's a dichotomy in the NFL, and the dichotomy is the NFL has ignored traumatic brain injuries for a very long time and is finally addressing it. At the same time, the caliber of medical attention that is available on the sidelines is the best in the world, unless you're in a trauma center and you fall off a table and hit your head. Maybe you can get better care there, but these guys, they're serious about their business. They knew this was coming, and they're ready.
Except you say a really important thing, because at the beginning of every shift in a trauma center, and at the beginning of at least this Bills game, but I assume every NFL game, the offensive line coaches and the offensive line meet and talk strategy. The defensive line and the defensive line coaches meet and talk strategy. And thankfully, the Buffalo Bills medical response team meets and discusses strategy every single week. I assume it's the same for every NFL team, but it is true for the Bills. And they went through that protocol, and then they used it. Every single person on the Buffalo Bills team used it for the very first time on Monday.
Okay.
And
Good night,
that
Virginia.
probably saved Damar's life, I think, for sure. So I'm pretty glad that they do that they give the physicians who almost never come out on the field time to review their game plan, review their strategy, all of that stuff, is taking care of the players.
So let's talk. We're going to finish this up because we're 21 minutes over right now. Last thing we're going to talk about is the NFL has been taking a lot of shit online about not canceling this game immediately. And I have some things to say about this. The people who are saying that, I'm going to have to guess, are probably not week in, week out NFL football watchers or people who have followed the league for any length of time. Keep in mind, the NFL is a multi-billion-dollar business. And it's not just the fat cats who own the teams. It's not just the players that get rich. There's an enormous amount of people, thousands of people, intertwined within the NFL whose income relies upon these games being played and moving into the playoffs. It's a business. A lot of people are like, oh, they shouldn't be doing it. It's just a game. What are you doing? I'm sorry. It is not. The NFL is not just a game. It is a big business with a lot of people working for it. And there are a lot of people that you don't see working for it too. So the fact that the NFL took an hour to figure out whether they're going to cancel this game is not at all disturbing to me. The fact that the NFL is going to be like, great, he's hurt. Get him off the field. Get him the medical care. Let's go back and play this game. Because and a lot of people are going to shit at me for this. The importance of this game from the perspective of running that business was astronomical. We are literally playing for a first round playoff seed and home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and that is likely to lead to a Super Bowl appearance and possibly a Super Bowl win. And
it's millions of dollars for some of those players. Not for the organization, but if those players show up and do well, they have another 10 years that adds millions of dollars to their generational wealth. Even
some of the, I'll call them third tier player, the guys who are like, you don't know their name, but they show up and ball out during the playoffs and they go from, $600,000 a year to $1.1 million a year for 3 or 4 years. That's called generational wealth. So just with the players alone, it's possible to change the entire, yes, ma'am.
Finish your thought, but I have a second thing.
Okay, so that being said, for the NFL to take its sweet time and figure out what it wants to do, because people getting hurt on the field and taken off the field on a back stretcher,
in an ambulance,
or taken off an ambulance has happened hundreds of times in the NFL. What you do is you get that player off the field,
Ron.
You go take care of them medically, and you get back to the business that you run. And the one thing I compare it to is, people die in car accidents all the time, and people die in business all the time. It happens, and the business takes a pause, tries to figure out what's going on, goes back to work, except most businesses don't have this rigid schedule. Like if you're building a house and a guy falls off a roof and you got to take a month to figure out what happened, that's unfortunate, but people are going to figure it out. We're going to figure what's going on. So the NFL took an hour, not a problem. The fact that the players and coaches of both teams were like, when the NFL said, let's play the game, they're like, nope, we're not playing the game. And the NFL's like, cool, we're not playing the game. We'll figure it out later. As someone who's followed football their entire life, I believe the decisions made by everyone involved were totally cool, totally acceptable, because what you want is people who take a beat, step back, calm down, look at a situation, and make decisions based on the available information that they have. In all phases of life, unless you're in a life and death situation where someone's trying to kill you, you want people who are calm, think things through, and weigh out what's going on, and then make a decision. So I have no problem with what happened.
I will add to that this. 1,000% of my enjoyment of the NFL is rooted in the idea that they believe the humans who are playing for them and the people who make up the team and the coaches and the front office are actual people who matter. And while I appreciate that it didn't necessarily look great publicly, that they weren't talking about calling the game or whatever, I will say this. I am glad that they focused in the immediate moment on the human who needed help and his teammates. I appreciate that it looks like the NFL chose to continue to play the game. I am going to, I'm not sure because that might have been a very traumatic moment for Damar's fellow players, but that they didn't make a decision. And it looked to us at home like they were insisting they go back to the game. Might have been just like, we're not addressing that problem at the moment. We are addressing our actual human player at the moment.
Because this is a violent sport, and people get hurt in a violent sport, and people often get carried off the field, and they're taken in an ambulance. So this is what happens in the sport. But the fact that the NFL made a decision, all right, he's off the field, he's been taken care of, we need to get back on the field because the outcome of this event, let's call it an event, the outcome of this business event has dramatic repercussions for the rest of our business going forward for the rest of this business year.
Yeah, I
see
the
NFL said, play the game, and then the coaches and players said, no, we're not going to play the game. And the NFL said, great. It was a collaborative decision.
I agree it was collaborative. I don't think it went that way. I think that the NFL were like, let's focus on Damar. And they absolutely did not call the game. They didn't call the game. And I think if Damar was okay, they would have continued to play the game. But I don't think that was a predatory capitalistic decision. Not yet, anyway. I haven't seen any evidence. I think when they had a medical moment, which they have had thousands of times in this season, we've seen it. We saw it with Tua. We've seen it. We've seen 1,000 concussion protocols. They don't call the game and stop everything for that. They go into protecting the player mode. And so did they wait too long to cancel the game? Maybe. Did they do that? So. I think they just were ignoring the broadcast version of this. I think they were focused on their team and their player. I think that,
the NFL or the teams?
Both. I think that they were like, yeah, I know we have to decide what to do with this, but we need to know how he is.
Jason Brown, can you share any info on that? I'd love to know more about it. Continue, baby.
What I'm sort of saying is I appreciate, and I'll say this. Can I talk about the Bush thing?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you can say it in one sentence, but it's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, no, it's a big conversation. But I'll say sometimes if people are faced with unprecedented things, they focus on the precedented things, right? And so what happened in the NFL is there was an unprecedented moment. The bill said on Wednesday afternoon that Hamlin remained in critical condition at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center with signs of improvement noted yesterday and also overnight. Hamlin was expected to remain in intensive care. He is vented and on his belly because they are trying to give his heart a chance to re-rhythm itself before they put any more stress like breathing or oxygenation or all on his heart.
Yeah.
That's the right thing to do. What I'm saying is them not making a call while they were focusing on saving a 24-year-old human's life was the right answer.
They took their time. They made a decision, and that is what it is. Now we have to look at, and call me callous. It's a giant ass business, and they made a business decision. People get hurt in business all the time. It just shit happens. Mm-hmm. There's a reason OSHA exists because fucking people get hurt in business, and when they get hurt, you have to correct it. Anyway, so to sum it up, I think the NFL taking 1 hour to figure out what to do in this absolutely critical moment of their business is not bad. It's not bad. I have no one to shit on in this situation whatsoever.
I appreciate that they never focused on their business. For the first 55 minutes, they focused on him.
The NFL was focused on the business. So like, let's get this kid the care. Kid's off the field.
That's
great.
What I'm saying.
Let's go back. And then when they're franchisees, they're called franchises for a reason. The NFL is franchises because it's a franchise business model. And the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals both said, no, we are not playing. Mm-hmm. And at that point, the management of the NFL could have been jackasses. They could have been down. It's like the first one of you guys who walks off that field gets the loss, and it changes everything. They did not do that. They collaborated with their employees. They made the best decision they could at the time, and now they kind of have to figure out what's going on because this shit is unprecedented. The thing people got to keep in mind is it's not like somebody dies in the field every year. Yes, people get hurt. Yes, people get hurt badly. I admit all of this.
But they followed the protocol for when people get hurt.
They followed the protocol, yeah.
This was a life and death situation, but they followed the same protocol that they do when people get not life-threatening hurt. They did the same thing. They waited and watched and decided.
The NFL, they're not fucking doctors. So you let the doctors take care of the decision in the field, get the guy, they rush him out of there. And I really hope this kid isn't another Mike Utley. I hope this kid doesn't have any brain damage. I hope this kid does great. I believe his career is completely over because once you've taken a shot like that, if anyone in your family lets you step back on the field...
But that's not about his ability.
No, it's not about his ability.
That's about the people who love him saying, baby, we need you.
That's about making a decision. Great. Like, you made a little bit of money, boo-boo. Now you got to go get another job because this shit ain't for you no more.
What should happen in the NFL community is he's going to recover slowly and I hope completely, just like Christian, the soccer player, did, right? I hope that happens. But what the NFL community should do is give him a option to commentate, maybe.
Well, we'll see. I mean, because commentating is a whole separate set of skills, right?
100%.
Not everybody can, just like not everybody can play in the NFL, not everybody can commentate. So
Tori,
you have to wait and see.
You
have to wait and see how that works. NFL communication injury report.
It should be a learning moment.
I don't see anything. Thank you, Jason, but I don't see anything on that site that points to specifically. Oh wait, NFL statement on Bengals game. Let's see if this is that was it tonight. So what's going to happen is this. I don't know if they've done this yet. I believe they're going to call the game a tie because they have to move on.
Yeah.
Because remember, every NFL game is in a stadium that is up against concerts and monster truck events and all these other things. Mm-hmm. And these schedules that employ hundreds of thousands of people are very delicate. So the best answer for the NFL right now, call the game a tie. Everybody agrees. Playoff seedings fall where they fall. And then we continue the playoffs and we move on toward a Super Bowl.
And that actually kind of works for this particular game with their standings. I'm not going to be mad about that.
It's a little frustrating for the Bengals that they can't beat the Bills and take over the number one seed. But no one in the Bengals is going to complain.
Be mad about.
No one's going to be mad. Like, great, because what you do is
because you'd rather be human.
It's the next guy up model in the NFL. In the NFL, people get hurt so frequently, and in college football too, at all levels, that there's a constant mantra of next guy up or next man up, which is like you are not as good as the guy in front of you. You're not even close. He's a star, but when he goes down, it's your job to step into that hole and play the game and do the best you can. So that is why depth on an NFL chart is dramatic. It's next guy up, and that mentality bleeds over to the schedule. The Bengals right now are like, okay, we need to beat the Bills. We don't get home field advantage. Let's go play ball. Let's go play ball. That's how you do in the NFL. You play ball.
I honestly think that the people who show up every day to show up for this game will figure out a thing that feels safe to them. Like if it's they move the bye week or whatever.
Nelzone says they're talking about pushing to the bye week. Oh, I see. So there's a bye week between the end of the NFC AFC Championship games and the Super Bowl. They might flip that. I'm a side note, we'll talk about this some other time because I'm a huge fan of AFC Championship, NFC Championship, boom, Super Bowl next week. Let's go. I think it's a better business model for them. But let's close it up, baby. Let's say the last thing you got to say.
I'll just say that I love that people are being human about this. It's hard, and I don't think that the NFL so far has been callous, and I don't think that any team or any player has the definitive goal here, how to move forward. And I love that we're sort of doing it together because we're all in it to win it. It's right at the playoffs and stuff. And I love that this is a community thing that is mostly focused around Damar getting better.
I mean, Roger Goodell could have leaned out with his scepter of NFL royalty and said, you will do this or you will pay the price. And none of that happened, so it's all right. So ladies and gentlemen, we will be back on January 11th. I Love Slay, episode 5 for you. Again, any feedback or thoughts on the story that pop in your head later, email them to info@emptyset.com. It's okay. It's all right. I'm probably not going to use them, but I like to hear it. Maybe you have a good idea that I do hear it. And so they're good, baby.
All right.
I think I jumped on yours. I have 2 Scots here, don't I? Shoot.
You do.
Oh, do this one.
So we are also next week. I know it has been since the beginning of November, but next week we're going to catch up on pup dates and junkie shout outs. A lot of you had NaNoWriMo. A lot of you had puppies. A lot of you lost puppies. We're going to do the whole thing together.
Thanks, Robert. And until then, until January 11th, when I'm going to read to your face, want you to stay smart.
We want you to stay safe.
And there's a new variant whooping ass all across the globe like
XBB
a boss.
1.5.
XBB like a boss. So pay attention, read stuff online, and remember, listen to the people who have spent their life studying stuff, not the fucking douchebags who just want to get clicks.
And if you're a person like me who has not yet had COVID, stay safe.
And for the love of being safe and staying science, we want you to stay. I blew the shit out of that.
Do you want to go to that one?
Honey, I have to apologize to you, sweetheart. I completely destroyed the end of that script. It's all written down.
Just stay safe.
Look, it's written down.
You guys, stay safe, stay inside.
And
avoid COVID.
I gummed it up. So now I have to go be very nice to my incredible wife because I gummed up the show. But you guys can all...
We love you to death.
Kiss off. What is it? Dark side, baby. You got to look into it. Dark side. You can all kiss off into the sky.